Numerous media outlets reported in early 2016 that a set of ancient clay tablets unveiled that Babylonian astronomers were more sophisticated than ever. Cuneiform writing on the tablets demonstrated that these ancient astronomers used geometric calculations to predict Jupiter's motion. Scholars had assumed that these techniques were not used until nearly AD 1400 by English and French mathematicians. But the recent discovery proved that ancient people were just as advanced as Renaissance-era scholars nearly 2,000 years ago. This discovery piqued the public's interest. It implicitly challenged the popular belief that cuneiform tablets were only used for basic accounting, such as grain tallying, rather than complex astronomical calculations. While most tablets were used for mundane bookkeeping or scribal exercises, some contain inscriptions that provide unexpected insights into the minute details and momentous events in the lives of ancient Mesopotamians. Does this imply these tablets are the oldest form of writings in existence? Let's find out in today's video. Hello and welcome back to the Abandoned Archaeologist again, the channel to learn all about ancient archaeological findings. Today, we will talk about the discovery of the oldest name and how it catches many people off guard. Then let's begin with our video. But before we begin, to get your attention, we have a question you can answer at the end of the video by watching it. The tablets on which Mesopotamians wrote were made of what? So write down your answer in the comment section and see if you got it right. Here, we begin with the video. The clay tablet was first discovered around 5,000 years ago in the rich Mesopotamian city of Uruk, modern-day southern Iraq, 3100 to 3000 BC. It displays some of the world's earliest writing discovered. Technical evaluation. Around 3000 BC, the basic form of writing that quickly evolved into cuneiform was developed in Uruk. It started as a system of pictograph characters, but as it evolved into cuneiform, it began to represent the sounds of words phonetically, as it can render many different languages, including Akkadian, Ablaic, and Hittite. It is known as a form of writing instead of a language. Local historical context. Uruk, a Mesopotamian city, was the birthplace of the clay cuneiform writing tablets. They were established to keep records for public institutions. The complexity of the economy, which made Uruk the largest Mesopotamian urban center at the time, necessitated the development of this bookkeeping system to ensure that all items were accounted for. The two areas were created using opposing principles. Kaluba, or the White Temple, had a central temple surrounded by everything else. The earliest writing forms were discovered in Eanna, associated with the goddess Inanna. This is the primary evidence demonstrating that Uruk grew from two settlements. Eanna lacked the White Temple's obvious central structure. The legendary Gilgamesh, king of Uruk, built the world surrounding Eanna. The Epic of Gilgamesh, a legendary tale about him, is regarded as one of the greatest works of cuneiform literature. It was clearly repeated many times, possibly in schools where children were learning to write in cuneiform, because fragments of the story have been discovered in Israel, Syria, and Turkey. Eanna served as a commercial hub. Metalworking shops and massive pottery kilns have been discovered. A structured division of labor is also evident. The cult vase from Uruk is one of the most well-known artifacts depicting social hierarchy. The vase depicts a ruler who is superior to his servants and commoners. The only people who knew the cuneiform language at the time were scribes and their apprentices. They were acting on orders from the palace and the temple. These two institutions had to keep meticulous records of their possessions. The scribes would write tablets as trade receipts and inventory lists for barley, animals, and precious goods. Clay cuneiform tablets were also preferred to record legal documents such as contracts and military rations for the palace and temple. World historical significance. In the grand scheme of things, this clay cuneiform tablet is significant because it is one of the world's first forms of writing. Before the cuneiform writing style, only symbols were used to represent specific items rather than the phonetic sound of the word. Cuneiform writing spread throughout Mesopotamia's civilization. However, as it spread, it was slightly modified by each of the civilizations that adopted it. For example, the Akkadians adopted it, but the added syllable values caused confusion in the pronunciation of some of the words. It also made its way to Babylon, where the Hammurabi Code was written in Old Babylonian cuneiform. Cuneiform began to spread outside Mesopotamia in the 3rd millennium BC. When it reached Elam, it was then developed further in Persia. Even after the decline of Akkadia and Babylon, their cuneiform forms continued to be used until Christ. Cuneiform writing was significant as a unifier, even though it was modified slightly as it spread to neighboring civilizations. They could communicate and trade. It spread as a universal mode of communication throughout the Middle East. Ancient Library. The Great Library of Ashurbanipal is the world's oldest surviving royal library. The library consisted of clay tablets covered in fine writing as well as pressed together on both sides. Around 30,000 tablets and fragments containing various texts from the 7th century BC, including contexts in various languages, were discovered under the rubble of Nineveh's royal palace. Assyria has always remained in history, overshadowed by the empires of Greece, Egypt, and Rome that came years later to dominate the world. Although a lot is written about the leader who founded this civilization, few are familiar with Ashurbanipal, the ruthless Assyrian king. Between 669 BC to 631 BC, the monarch oversaw Assyria's massive expansion from its northern Iraqi roots through ancient Babylon and beyond Lower Egypt, where the Nile River empties. Regarding Ashurbanipal, Ashurbanipal always had an iron fist but never fought. As a result, many historians describe him as a sociopathic bookworm who operated from the empire's capital, Nineveh. He demonstrated his cruelty in the city without having to lead his troops in battle. He preferred to be a wealthy ruler. In several reliefs on the walls of this monarch's palace, he is shown hunting lions to demonstrate that no beast could ever defeat him. His scholarship, however, crossed borders, and Ashurbanipal amassed thousands of works written on clay sheets. Much of his library exemplifies his knowledge of the Assyrian Empire, the importance of education to his kingdom, and the power he wielded at the time. According to experts, all of this combined to make Assyria a magnificent, innovative, and interesting region. Ashurbanipal was a complicated and frequently misunderstood figure. The king of Assyria, Ashurbanipal, from 668 to 627 BCE, amassed a library in his capital city Nineveh, containing an estimated 20,000 to 30,000 clay tablets written in cuneiform script in an effort to amass all knowledge. Ashurbanipal was one of the few kings to have received scribal training from one Balasai, a senior royal scholar. The British Museum recently catalogued 3,700 scholarly tablets from his library written in Babylonian script and dialect, roughly 13% of the entire library. Ashurbanipal's obsession with Babylonian books did not completely overwhelm indigenous production. Their removal from Nineveh undermined Babylonian claims to the region's intellectual heritage and thus pretensions to some political hegemony, while reinforcing Ashurbanipal's self-image as guardian of Mesopotamian culture and power. The library was discovered at Nineveh in 1849 by archaeologist explorer Austin Henry Laird and is thought to be the first systematically collected library as opposed to a government archive. Clay tablets, like those in his library, or other cuneiform archives were not fired in kilns to preserve them. However, because the clay tablets were first baked in fires set in 612 CE during the Median sack of Nineveh, it is believed that a significant portion of his library survived to the present. Layard described his discovery of the library in a text entitled Discoveries in the Ruins of Nineveh and Babylon, from which Clark reproduced the floor plan of Ashurbanipal's record room on page 2 of the Care of Books. Ashurbanipal wrote the following curse on many or all of his tablets to deter thieves. It is the earliest known book curse, and because it was also used to identify his property, it could be considered an early ex libris, albeit a lengthy one. In 1872, the British Museum's English archaeologist George Smith edited the surviving records of Ashurbanipal's life on clay cylinders and tablets and published cuneiform transcriptions with interlinear translations under the title History of Ashurbanipal, translated from the Cuneiform Inscriptions, 1872. Ashurbanipal's library still contains 660 cuneiform tablets relating to medicine. Reginald C. Thompson published Assyrian medical texts in facsimile for the first time, without translation. Originals from the British Museum, 1923. What do you think of the oldest name in existence? Let us know in the comments below. And the answer to our question is clay. The tablets were made of clay, which Mesopotamians used to write. Stay tuned for more such videos.